Hey everybody, welcome back to Holt Growers. I'm your host Timothy Holt, and in this video we're not going to talk about the greenhouse or growing crops in the winter. We're going to talk about heating a house, specifically this house, and the ups, the downs, the difficulties, and considerations in putting in a new heat system in a 130-year-old house. So stay tuned for that. So behind me you'll see the cabinetry of our central fireplace. This is how we heat our house currently. It's a 1,500 square foot, 1.5 story house with a full walkout basement. The basement is currently not being heated. However, with our renovations to the basement, we're putting in finished used space for a big chunk of the basement, and that will get heated. Obviously, we need to address the heat to do that. Behind me is the fireplace. When I moved in December of 2012. This house had no central heating system whatsoever. It was heated by a portable natural gas heater here in the living room and space heaters in the rest of the house. Since there was no heat, it's December in western Pennsylvania. It's cold out. There's snow on the ground. Heat's a good thing. Using space heaters to heat your 1,500 square foot house is a bad idea. Just plain and simple, it's a bad idea. So for the remainder of that summer, that's what we used because that's what we had, and developed a plan to put in a central heat system. So I was online just doing some piddling, searching, and came across someone getting rid of a firebox. I was like, oh, okay. It was a pre-manufactured firebox. You come and get it kind of thing. It came out of a trailer, a mobile home. It was put in by the mobile home company with a zero clearance. So you can actually put your hand on the outside of this firebox and it's cold to the touch, which is really cool. Minimal fire hazard that way. There's some upsides to that. Obviously, you can put wood, insulation, flammable objects directly up against it and not have to worry about it catching on fire. The downside to that is if you put in a chimney fan, which above us there's 2 chimney fans, you don't get as much heat circulation off of the chimney fans as you could with a traditional firebox that gets hot on the outside. So those are the 2 upsides. But put in the late summer, early fall of 2013. I put the firebox in, the chimney in. There is already a mason chimney outside that was used with that coal chute that I mentioned earlier. So I had that inspected at the same time as the other chimney, the central chimney, and they said it was in pristine condition. They said it just needed to be swept out and it would be great. So I was like, great, how do I tap into that for a fireplace on the main floor? And they showed me how to do it. I punched the hole in the wall and ran the chimney. They said, don't have your chimney go at 90 degrees. So if it comes up, don't have it straight out and then up. Do 2 45-degree angles. So that's what we did. Now, if you notice, this chimney is not directly in the corner of the room. And the reason is because where that chimney is located outside, hot air rises. It does not go side to side very well. So you want your smoke, which is hot, to rise out of the chimney, which means you can't be pushing it sideways as much as possible. So as a result, I end up having to move the fireplace, the firebox, away from the corner slightly, which left some unusable space. Kinda. We came up with a pretty cool use for that space, which I have to give a shout out to my dad. He is a carpenter out in Iowa. He came out for a week and did almost all of the carpentry work for this install and did a great job. It was also his idea to put in the game cabinet and the coat closet to to fill in that space. So I'll show you those things here. So there's Victoria again. She's been in frame pretty much the whole time.
I know.
But over here, we have the top here. There's a hairbrush. It's full of junk, as you can see, but there is supposed to be a hanger bar up there, and it is to store winter coats. That was the intention anyway. And then down here, we have a bunch of board games and shelving to fill in that gap, that otherwise unusable space. Above where we would typically have that chimney and a lot of dead space, we put in where the wreath is at. We put in a very large mantle, wide mantle. It is solid oak. And we have a cabinet up top. So those are those two chimney fans. They're controlled by a switch right here. And the bottom switch actually controls our blower on the firebox itself. So the mantle is countersunk behind this wall. So it is structurally sound. Actually, my 16-year-old son recently was standing on it to get something off of that shelf up there. So it doesn't go anywhere. Also, if you put your hand here, it's really warm. If I had my heat gun to tell you the temp, I've seen this underneath here get as hot as about 350 degrees. Not quite hot enough to catch on fire, not even close actually. We treated this oak with a special polymer for fireplace mantles. Also, the height above the fire is a scientific calculation that I got from those masons that I mentioned earlier that gave me how to calculate the distance between the fire itself and the mantle so you don't catch the wood mantle on fire, which is pretty cool. I did think about putting some hooks on here for like hanging stockings, but I haven't done that because, well, that would be pretty classical, I think. I just haven't done it. So these up here, the chimney fans, there's two of them. They run off one switch. They're called minute fans. They're very quiet. I don't know how well you can hear that in the video, but they are very quiet. The blower on the fireplace, on the other hand, is substantially louder. But how those work is we have these cold air intakes down here. They're just open vents to behind this rock wall, hearth, and they draw cold air in, bring it up past the chimney on the backside, and then out into the room. The stone hearth, I'd like to talk about that for a little bit, for a moment here. That stone hearth that you see, I put in myself. It covers the firebox face. I put in the vents. I designed how to do that, all of it. The rocks I harvested out of the Allegheny River and cleaned up. It took a lot of time, a lot of work. One thing I will say about it is if you're going to tackle a project like this, know what you're getting into, because I had no idea how much work this was going to be. And it was very rewarding, but it was so labor intensive. It's ridiculous. So all of these stones, even the little tiny ones, came out of the Allegheny river, and then I had to clean them up, scrub them down, get all of the river soot off of them in settlement, then dry them out, size them up. I actually chalked out on the floor where they were going to be and placed them in. I think I went through probably a half a dozen different iterations of that plan to get them to fit right. So overall, very happy with it. This is our heat system for the house. So yeah, that little fire right there heats our house, the whole house, with the exception of a wall electric unit that runs sometimes in the kitchen, usually when we're not cooking. Otherwise, this is it. What we have is right up there a hot air vent going into the upstairs bedroom directly above this room. Over here we have a cold air vent to come back, and then the stairwell is open. So the other bedroom, 2 bedrooms have cold air returns, which gives us that nice air circulation. Now I'm going to cut the video down to the basement, and you'll see why, if you're going to get into this kind of project, you want to know what you're doing ahead of time and definitely plan it out, because I didn't account for the weight of all of that rock. Now, these rocks are not very thick. I think the thickest one is about 2 inches thick, but they are very heavy because they're natural stone. And as a result, that puts a lot of stress on your floor joists. And because this house is a timber-built house and not dimensional lumber-built house, I was under the misconception that those massive logs that make up the floor joists would be able to support it. So I'm going to cut the video, head down to the basement, and show you what I'm talking about. And it doesn't take a structural engineer to see the problem pretty quickly. So let's do that now. You can also see a new glass block window in right there. That is was the coal chute that I was talking about earlier, right there, that came in, and that 2-burner wood stove was sitting right there. You can see a little bit of, you can see where that chimney got capped off right there. Excuse me, capped off right there. This window is going to get replaced with a larger window for egress. So probably do a video on that when the time comes. But that window is going to get to be a larger window for egress, because it's definitely too small to be considered an egress. So gas line comes in right there. Fireplace is directly above our head, as you can see, with the gas line going up there, and then right there is an electrical line going to the blower and the chimney fans. So this is the basement. Now, this 2x6, painted 2x6 right here, recently painted, I put in after consulting with a couple of structural engineers. Same with those 2 and down there. Okay, so this is additional support, and we'll get to why that additional support is right after we talk about that right there. So that is a timber beam, and it is 18 feet long. Right there too. Hi, Tori. Right there. See, as you can see, these are all timbers. They are huge. They're just massive logs. But they run the entire length. There in the entryway, I did have to do some modifications. Excuse me, not because I wanted to or because I screwed up, but because when I moved in, that beam that should be 18 feet long, as you can tell, stops right there. So obviously I had to add some structural support. Yeah, because it doesn't start again until way over here, and that entire section was gone. But back over here to our fireplace. So as you can see, there is that massive crack I was mentioning right here. It is deep. As you can see right here, it goes all the way to the former exterior wall and goes almost all the way through this beam, which is a pretty big, hairy deal, okay, to put it nicely. And that structural crack, that stress fracture in this beam goes all the way over here. And as you can see right there, it goes deep into the log. As a result, I was highly concerned that I may have incidentally put way too much weight on it. So I consulted a structural engineer, and the first structural engineer told me, yeah, you did. You caused a stress fracture, and you can tear out the fireplace, or you can put a post right here underneath in line with this beam and just measure out
even with your fireplace, and put a steel post like this one, which is common in basements, modern basements, or a 4x4 or 6x6 post. I didn't really like that idea because I was really concerned that that stress fracture was only going to get worse even if I did that. So I consulted a second opinion. Second opinion said the same thing. I consulted a third opinion, and that's where this wall partition thing comes in. It goes all the way over there, as you can see, and comes all the way over here. The center ones are doubled up because of our remodel. They were spaced out 16 on center. We moved them closer together and doubled them up, which is fine because that end doesn't need the extra support, and this end does, which they're pretty close together. So he said do it this way, put it right up on the floor and put it right up against your beam, and you'll be good to go. When we did that, the set right here, it was bowing pretty bad. So we used sledgehammers to pound it into place and level it back out. Might not be the most effective way to do it, but it did level out our floor. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put another 2x6 up against this one, going all the way from the floor to the ceiling to double this up. And we're not doing that for structural support. We're doing that actually for our future plans, because what we're going to do with that is tie in some built-in shelving in this section, as well as blocking off those gas lines up there so they don't incidentally get damaged. And then on this section, we're also going to be putting in some other shelves going up, leaving the window open to the room. Okay. On the middle section here is going to be a built-in bench underneath that new egress window, which will be installed. And then over here, that section is obviously wider for a couple of reasons. One, we don't need the structural support here because there's no weight above it. But also because my oldest son wants to get into boxing and MMA, and he has a boxing bag that needs to be hung somewhere. So we're going to use this as a dual purpose. It will be, he can hang, we're going to put a 1.5 inch dowel across that, and he can hang that bag there. Or that can also be used as a built-in closet space, hanger space for dress clothes and what have you, coats, things of that nature.
Thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video and got something out of it. If you have, please hit that like button. I would greatly appreciate it if you liked the video. If you don't like the video, hit the thumbs down. I'm good with that. But either case, let me know in the comments, okay? If you've had similar issues with homesteading or just simply being a homeowner, let me know. I'd love to hear your stories on successes, failures, whatever it is. Funny stories, I'd love to hear from you. So let me know in the comments. As always, get out, grow something today. Hopefully you don't make the same mistake I make, and we can all learn together.